So I'm just going to do a little bit of a small update, but I want to speak a lot about runway because it's something that I've been thinking a lot about, especially kind of like shifting back into London, like, shifting gear. Obviously, my expenditure here is a lot higher. And I think obviously like there's reasons for that. And I want to make a return on that, obviously. But I've been thinking a lot about runway. And actually, right now, one of the things that I'm doing is basically like I've got my burn rate and I've got my current runway, basically what I have in the bank. And I'm just focused on making sure that what I have in the bank is enough to cover 12 months. And that's the sole focus of basically the sole goal that I have right now. And so I find myself wanting to invest actively in opportunities, but I'm withholding, from investment in those things because I want to secure that runway. And I want to explain why. I want to explain my thinking because I think it's been a really useful reflection for me that I think that I wish I had earlier, honestly. But some of the worst situations I've had are where basically, I'm running low on runway and I'm looking at things and being like, how the hell am I going to make this work out? It's incredibly stressful. Now, don't get me wrong, you cannot avoid that feeling entirely. And there are times where you have to gamble, and that is business effectively. Now, in my situation, I think like generally I myself personally am able to play very aggressively with risk. And so, if I'm given the option, generally I invest very, very heavily, especially when the only thing that's on the line is like my safety and my security, because I'm willing to lose, and like I'm willing to lose. I keep my obligations as few as possible, but I know that I'm okay with very little, right? And so that means that I can play with a lot. Now, when you bring into the equation team and employees and things like that, then you now have people who are dependent on you. And I think this only increases as you go through life, even personally, right? Like if you have a family or something, you then have dependents, right? And you must provide for them. And so your risk tolerance slowly decreases. And I used to play very aggressively with risk, but like being able to have that long-term, 12 months is not like super long-term, but being able to have 12 months of runway means that you have peace of mind to make decisions and plans and execute on those, which I think gives a newfound maneuverability when it comes to making those investments that right now I'm holding off from. And I think that is something that is really, really nice, because otherwise you make that investment and then you're stressing, how the hell am I going to make things work next month? Where's the next deal and stuff like that. You're always chasing that next thing. Whereas, if you know that you have 12 months, you can work on a strategy that will take you at least 6 months. And then in 6 months time, if it's not working, then you can pivot into something else and that you're safe. And I think that peace of mind is worth a lot. At least like that's been something that I've been thinking about. So anyway, but being in London increases those runway costs. But I'm basically like thinking through things from a frame of like, okay, assuming all things constant, how do I grow the business? What are the actions that I need to take? And one of the things that is really, really useful is that it forces me to very, very carefully consider how I'm allocating the existing resources that I have. And I think we can optimize what we already have a lot more than we do. And I would say this, like when I was starting out, when I was 13 and I was making that little first business, I didn't have anything. And that meant that, what I mean, I didn't have anything. I didn't have money, but I also specifically didn't have a credit card, which means even if I got any money, I didn't have any way to spend it. And so I got scrappy real fast. I had to figure out how to do everything myself. And so a constraint of resources forces you to optimize what you have. At the time I had fuck all and I had my time and I made I made that work. And so that is basically like, I think a mindset that's really useful. But as you get more resources, and especially as you get more cash flow, you lose a little bit of that because now you can allocate resources toward it. And so as you bring in other resources and you acquire basically leverage, I think it's important to every once in a while just sit and optimize and be like, okay, am I allocating everything as effectively as I possibly could? And I think a lot of people don't have that reflection. And I will say, like, there are moments when you want to invest in something new and you're just like, oh, let's do it. Like I have the funds for it. Let's go. Let's throw money at it. But business is a game of optimizing things, right? So 80-20 and things like that. So it's good to put myself back in that frame of like, okay, if I assume all things constant, I have this much for myself. I like kind of budget things out. How can I work within this frame to increase that runway to be 12 months? And then from there, I can work on some really, really long-term plays that I think are super nice. And that is what I'm very excited about right now, honestly. Like I want to work on marketing stuff, but marketing with content, things like that. And that's a slow burn. That's a really slow burn. Or at least I'm preparing myself for it to be a very, very slow burn. And I think going in with that expectation is really, really good. Or at least it's like very helpful because, when things don't pan out in the first 3 months, which they probably won't, I won't be disappointed. But yeah, anyway. Also today's just been pretty unfocused day, but you know, I'm doing what I can. Just gonna sit and do some engineering work and hopefully clear out my weekend to work on some of the new marketing and content stuff, which I've been wanting to work on, which has been delayed because we took on a couple like last minute projects and stuff. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, but I would encourage people to like optimize what they already have. I think it's a really, really useful exercise.